Privacy versus policy. Stats Canada is telling the banks to hand over real-time private financial information of 500,000 Canadians without their knowledge or consent. It could be you. The opposition says it's a big brother moment. The government says no, nothing to worry about here. All the data will be protected. Now the Privacy Commissioner is investigating. So is the government overstepping its bounds? Does the government have the right to take your private financial data? Let's bring in MPs to find out their perspective. David Lametti is the Parliamentary Secretary to the Innovation Minister. Lisa Raitt is the Deputy Conservative Leader. And Daniel Blaikie is an NDP MP from Manitoba. Great to have all of you on. I'm going to start with Lisa Raitt. We've heard from the Chief Statistician, the head of StatsCan, Lisa, before the break. He was making the case that all this data is needed to help governments make good policy, and it will all be protected. Is that good enough for you?
Well, you know, StatsCan may have the power to do what they're doing, but in the same act, the government has the obligation to ensure that there's oversight of what they're doing. And my point of view on this is that no, this is an overreach, that having this kind of data coming in, 500,000 Canadians this year, 500,000 Canadians next year, and a complete data set for people to massage to try to figure out certain aspects in order to advise on policy, I don't think it's needed. And the fact that Canadians weren't consulted and the case wasn't made before the letters demanding the bank account information went out, I think it's a fundamental failure of this government.
Let me bring in Mr. Blaikie. Are you the same, Daniel Blaikie, on that? That, you know, Canadians were caught off guard after David Akin reported this. Should the law be reversed?
Yeah, well, I think we found this very shocking, and I've been listening to the debate on this in the House over the last week. And what I haven't heard is the government make the case for why it's necessary for individual Canadians to be identified with this information. So I mean, Stats Canada, sure, they have work to do in terms of providing good information to Canadians and to businesses and to government as well. But it's really not at all clear why it's important for Stats Canada not to get aggregated information. And I think if you know, this is a really big change in terms of Stats Canada knowing that, you know, John Smith spent $8 at Tim Hortons this morning. And I haven't heard anybody make a compelling case as to why they need that kind of information. So I do think there's an obligation for government to get involved in order to protect the privacy of Canadians. If they think that this is okay, they need to actually say why. It's not enough to say that Stats Canada needs to generate information. David
Lametti, make the case here, because Canadians were caught off guard. I can't imagine the rollout has been good. I mean, it sounds like it, because even StatsCan was caught off guard by this. What's the case that Canadians don't have the right to keep their private financial data private?
Well, it does stay private. That's what people have to remember. Stats Canada does get the nominative information, but then they immediately scrub it, and so what goes into Stats Canada?
I don't know if that's your definition of privacy. When an agency goes in and takes it, and they say, "Don't worry, we scrub it."
No, but what goes into StatsCan stays in StatsCan, and nobody can get the nominative information. I can't get it as an MP. The government can't get it. A federal court order can't get it. The RCMP can't get it. The CRA can't get it. Once it goes into StatsCan, it stays there. It's done. It's over. So it's not public information by any means. And StatsCan was working through a process. This is a pilot project that they were working through, and they actually put up a privacy impact assessment where they weighed the justifications against the privacy arguments. That's been online for a while.
If they're going to scrub it, why do they need our SIM information?
I don't understand.
They need the information because it's more accurate coming in when it's attached to them nominative information, and then it gets cleaned up.
Mr. Blaikie, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, what I don't understand is why the government wouldn't be interested in saying that we're going to put a hold on this until at least until the Privacy Commissioner has had an opportunity to weigh in. So I mean, it's all well and good that StatsCan did a privacy impact assessment, but that's their own document. I mean, I think Canadians want to have some assurances that this is legit, and they want a third party to look at this. That's why we have a privacy commission.
That comment is premature in the sense that no data has been taken yet. This is still a pilot project that's in development.
Well, then why not just say clearly no data will be taken until the Privacy
Commissioner has been asked to join by the Chief Statistician. He has now said he will do an inquiry. The Chief Statistician has been open from the get-go to meeting privacy concerns.
Lisa Raitt, what's your take on that then?
My take is this. I cannot believe that the government is defending this, first of all. This is an overreach by Statistics Canada, and they've gotten their hands caught in the cookie jar because Canadians do not want this to happen. TransUnion handed over millions of files on people's credit ratings. That happened, and that happened last year, and it happened again in this year, and still nothing has come out in the House of Commons telling us. And David, you're wrong on one thing. When you said that nobody can get this information once it's in StatsCan, you better read the Statistics Canada Act, because it says very clearly in there that a minister can get anything they want out of StatsCan.
That data is not protected. They can't get the nominative information. They cannot get the nominative information.
They can get anything they want.
No, they can't.
They can get anything they want as long as they tell Parliament that they're seeking it. Take a look at the Act.
Get the nominative information.
This stuff is not protected.
When you say the you're saying nominative information. You're saying, so let's talk about this, because your government's now throwing around words like nominative and anonymized, words, frankly, I've never heard before. So what does that mean?
It means we can't get the link between the person and the data. We can only get the data at the end of the day once it's been scrubbed. Any Canadian can get the data. It's not the government. It is the Bank of Canada, it is provincial governments, municipal governments, it's small and medium-sized businesses. It's all Canadians. The data is there for all Canadians.
So would your government look at the fact that there's so much misunderstanding about this? I have a different understanding. You do, Lisa Raitt does. Hey, there's no clarity. The Privacy Commission is investigating. Will your government consider backing away from starting this program in January, given the amount of controversy around this?
Well, we're trying to explain it. I think the opposition's fear-mongering, Evan, quite frankly. They're trying to make it sound like there's a massive data breach and that kind of thing.
No, I mean, I just don't...
There is, the chief statistician has acted responsibly on this from the get-go.
But to be fair, Mr. Lametti, how can you explain something if the Privacy Commissioner is investigating it?
He was asked to join in by the chief statistician. The chief statistician needs to justify what he's doing, that's clear, and the chief statistician needs to make sure that the privacy concerns of Canadians are met. And he has been doing that. He's been open to that from the beginning.
Lisa Raitt says
what I don't understand here is why the government wouldn't simply tell Canadians that they're not going to move ahead, at least until the Privacy Commissioner has weighed in. And that's what we're not hearing. What we hear are these defenses that, well, it's just a pilot program, well, we're not going to have access to this or that. But people are concerned that any government department, including Statistics Canada, is going to have this information. Why can't the government just say that that information isn't going to be transferred, at least until the Privacy Commissioner has actually weighed in? And it's the fact that they can't just give that clear an answer that feeds people's concern and makes them feel like something odd is going on.
Last word, Lisa Raitt.
And when it's your personal financial information,
all I'm going to say is,
you don't want weird things happening.
What a government should do is always do a risk analysis and determine whether or not the benefit actually is something that comes out that's worth the risk.
That risk analysis has been online for a while.
David, let me finish. Canadians' data is going to be taken from them. They're not going to know that it's being taken from them. Their bank isn't going to be able to tell them that it's taken from them. And it's not anonymized when it goes into StatsCan. In fact, there is a name attached because you need that for good data. Now, whatever happens within StatsCan is one thing. When those data points hit StatsCan, it is there and it's everything that a person owns and has and reports through their bank accounts. And Canadians don't like it. This is a policy point. If you can show to us that it is so important to breach Canadians' fundamental privacy in order to get this information, then try to do it. But you didn't do it before, and now you're caught, and you're going to have to do it, and I don't think you can. Scrub the entire project.
I got to leave it there. This debate is not going anywhere. Lisa Raitt, Daniel Blaikie, and David Lametti, I appreciate that.